evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Pleasant good evening to all the people who watch this show live, those who watch it on the rerun, those all around the world who tune in to Plain Talk to hear the commentary of the likes of these two esteemed gentlemen joining me today, two of the best known criminal defense attorneys in Trinidad and Tobago's history, Vernon de Lima and Wayne Sturge. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Philip, and good evening to Senior.
Good evening, Wayne. A pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, right. So, well, you've both been here before, so you know the drill. We're going straight into it, and we're going to try and see if we could make sense in the time that we have as to what the situation is and where it could go from here. Is it fair to say that our justice system is in a shambles?
Well, as far as I know, I think that a lot is wrong with it. Times change, and we have to change with the times. The question is, have we in fact changed with the time? You have a situation here where the crime in Trinidad is so terribly bad. I read the papers every day. Right here, I'm in Florida, but I read the Guardian and the Net. And I saw about this yesterday. They killed four people in one place and one person somewhere else. But not only that, it's the type of crimes. It's like executions that are going on, right, in Trinidad. So you have a situation where the public is afraid. They're terrified. And when they look at the judicial system, they don't get much sort of consolation there because of so many things that are wrong. I don't know how you think. What do you think, Counsel?
I want to weigh in on that because I want to ask something else that I got from a former High Court judge that I want to throw out for you as well.
Yeah.
Wayne.
Yes.
Is it in shambles?
I think it is. It has gotten worse over the years. I'm sure Mr. De Lima would remember the days when you were brought to trial within 2 or 3 years of being charged.
Yeah.
That wasn't very long ago. That was less than 20 years ago.
Yes,
when I got called to the bar, between being charged and being brought to trial, it was generally 2 to 3 years, even with murders. And now we are at a place where it takes, on average, 10 to 12, sometimes up to 15 years between charge and trial. So in that respect, and in many other respects, it has grown much worse. And one would think with the advancement in technology and all the advancement in terms of judicial education and training, that it would have gotten better. But it has grown much worse. And as Mr. De Lima has said, and I mean it's kind of obvious that there's a great amount of fear. And to remedy that situation, you cannot fix a justice system if trial, the length of time it takes up to bring someone to trial is uncertain or is in excess of 10, 15 years, where witnesses die in the meantime or lose interest or migrate, or for whatever reason are intimidated and so on, or they just plain forget. So that when the trial comes around, the evidence is not as reliable as it should be, and it ends in acquittal. To have a properly functioning justice system, you should have a trial within a reasonable time. And if there's a conviction, punishment must be swift.
Justice
punishment is or swift, then it makes no sense.
That's correct. Yeah, that maxim is correct. But you know, I'm Vernon, and I'm Mr. De Lima, right? But I tell you something. I saw this thing take place. I saw it crumbling. When Sir Hugh Wooding was the Chief Justice of Trinidad and Tobago, that was a time that things were going quite good. I must say. But from the time that era finished, I don't know what happened, boy. But like they put a brakes on justice.
I was told that
Well, that,
under, if I could just say this, I was told under Chief Justice Michael de Labastide, the backlog was
Mhm.
cleared. I was told the
yeah.
backlog was
Well, but
cleared. Magisterial backlog was cleared. I was told that you could appeal a magistrate decision and walk across, and judges waiting for you to appeal.
Yeah,
And the
that
backlog was.
yeah.
that is
Go
the
ahead,
way it didn't
Terry
last.
Vernon.
Yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I wanted to echo that because things did change. I think the greatest change in the Labastide era would have been the speeding up of the civil justice system, so that
Right.
that is what was expedited and made much more efficient. There was no need to speed up the criminal justice system because it was working reasonably well in terms of speed. Trial within 2 or 3 years of being charged, that was reasonably well. Um,
Yeah.
it has degenerated since. I think it when there was this debacle involving Sharma, things started to go downhill because
Mhm.
there was some sort of uncertainty as to what would take place, and then we
Yeah.
went straight from instead of transitioning from Sharma to perhaps an older person like Hamel Smith, who was next in line, which would have brought the kind of stability. We jumped we skipped about 4 or 5 senior judges and went straight
Mhm.
to the person who currently holds the post. And I
You
think
see,
since
yeah.
he has held, I think things have gone into misery.
You see,
Vernon,
and
you
once
agree?
again, yeah, I agree with that. And once again, politics again. From the time you see, you got to be careful. From the time politics enters into the judicial system, you have a macro problem. Right? And that is what has happened. Now, there's a part of it that nobody has mentioned, and I'll tell you what it is. One of the dangers, if not the biggest danger of all of this, is the prisoners in the jail. Because you can't put a man in prison and tell him that you are charged you for murder, right? And you can't get bail, and he has to remain there 9 years before he could come to the High Court. That is crazy. That is crazy. And when you look at it, I said it many times, and people don't believe me or they'll take me on. But nobody takes anybody on again with anything serious. I didn't try that. But when I been saying that for years and years, there are, I think, more than 1,000 people in remand yard awaiting trial with
But
no
but
bail.
Vernon, but Vernon is money. It's a big money thing. It's $30,000 a month to house a prisoner in remand. But the Commissioner of Prisons and the Secretary General of the Prison Officers Association say they don't understand where that money goes. It is
I know,
80 million a year to transport prisoners up and down the road to cases that never call and matters that drag on for decades. And again, nobody understands why this might be so and why nobody at the top, why the Chief Justice himself is not making this the most critical issue where the judiciary and the administration of justice is concerned.
because nobody seems to care. That is a fact. Nobody seems to care. The whole judicial system in Trinidad, I find is perverse. It's not bad. But that's one of the reasons that I can tell you that I sort of gave up long before I retired. Or 2 years before, I was just sort of pedaling and going on neutral gear because I remember I went into a court in Tonapuna, a simple case, and the magistrate adjourned my matter for 11 months. And I said, Madam, 11 months, why I might be dead. But by that time, she said, I don't care. It's 11 months, right? And I walked out of that court and I was so upset. I said, but this is a hell of a thing. And it was a simple case. And the poor man who had to keep coming back, the fellow was, at one stage, he was looking at me as though I was causing the problem, you know? So
But
you
you see,
get that.
Vernon, there's this rumor, there's this belief that people in the justice system, lawyers, judges, magistrates, criminal defense attorneys, prosecutors, everybody working together to split fees, and that is why people. This is what I keep hearing. This is what this is, and I find it hard to believe, but this is what people believe. This is the narrative that people believe as to why the system simply does not work. Another thing is, judges in Trinidad and Tobago are shielded from public opinion. I think that we have the most ridiculous contempt of court law. I was told about judges and senior British judges dealing with matters, and the headline the next day in the papers could refer to them as, I was told about one, I think it was refer to them, put all of their pictures and say blasted fools or something to that effect. And if you cannot scrutinize, and if the public cannot scrutinize the judges that the public is paying, what exactly is going on in Trinidad and Tobago? Is this really a democracy? Because that does sound very democratic to me.
No, I agree with you. You're quite right. And more particularly since nowadays it is so frustrating. I mean, I'm not blaming the judges. I'm not saying the judges as such, but the buck must stop somewhere. And I remember in the olden days, it always stopped with the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice took the situation into his domain, and he did whatever rectifications were necessary. But nowadays the whole thing is so different. So, and maybe this virus thing might help. I don't know. Maybe.
Who's responsible for case?
I beg one.
Sorry?
Who is responsible for case management? The judge?
Well, the judge
and system, adopted system. So before it was different, and they've come up with this new docket system where they apportion matters, and if there are 800 matters and there are 8 judges, then each judge has 100 matters, and those are his matters. It will be by him alone. The problem with that.
But once you are a judge and you get a case, the length of time that case takes, managing that case is your responsibility, yes? Case management.
It is to some extent, but the thing is, you should come into court and hear some of the judges. There are those who are pro Archie, who would support the new docket system, and there are some who are just plain fed up with what the docket system is, because it is not working. And in the old system, before you had the docket system, if a judge is engaged in a trial and your matter comes up before him, he clearly cannot do it because he's engaged in something else. That judge had the ability to transfer. It was easily transferred to another judge who was available, and that other judge could do a trial. The docket system, it is near impossible to transfer matters, so that the judge will tell you, listen, I'm doing a matter, you have to wait until I'm finished with this matter, and then you have to join the line, and we'll get to yours eventually. It means, therefore, that with some judges, some cases are greater priority than others, and it's more efficient with some judges, but with most judges, it's not, because a judge can only do one case at a time. And now that he has his docket and he's responsible for managing the cases in his docket, it is anathema that he would transfer it to another judge.
Wayne, I remember.
Right, sorry.
Right. I remember in the olden days, right, when all the judges were sort of on a par. I mean, nobody was greater than anybody else. And I mean, they were all men and women of ability, right? And so if you go before Judge A, it's the same damn thing as they were going before Judge B or C. But then over the years, there came a situation where I remember I myself got involved in it. You say you get a state where you say, well, I don't want to go in front of that judge, but that judge don't know what you're doing. You understand what I mean, right? So I will duck him.
Yeah.
And so you duck him to go in front of somebody else, because of the straight question of ability. Straight question.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, and I mentioned this the last time. Sorry, I have to repeat myself, but this is so important, right? That the criminal judicial system became so complicated, right? Over the last 5 or maybe 10 years, right? They have all sorts of different rules and all kind of niches and so on. That it got to a stage where it was not a pleasure to do a case anymore. I remember one of the last cases I did. I got involved with all kind of things called avenues or corridors or some damn thing, right? And you had to be before you could ask about a question, you had to satisfy the judge that you belong to that corridor. you understand? I couldn't bullshit, right? I'm sorry to say it that way, but that's what it is. Because
But that's the way you have to say it. And under the People's Partnership, Herbert Volney was appointed, who was himself a former High Court judge, and he was appointed as the Minister of Justice with responsibility to fix all of these things. Was anything done, Wayne?
No, that's not certainly not under him.
I don't think the problem stemmed with Herbert Volney. I think it started before that, because
Right.
I'm not being political. But
Was there
it just so
a
happened.
Justice Minister before Herbert Volney?
No, but there was an
With
Attorney General.
responsibility for courts. I know you have an Attorney General, yes. But Herbert Volney,
No.
we were told that.
Listen, if you're talking about delays in the criminal justice system, and to piggyback on what Vernon has just said, let me tell you what happened. Before Herbert Volney and Ram Logan, there was no Justice Minister, there was an Attorney General, John Jeremy, who was not a criminal lawyer, never practiced criminal law. And he passed a plethora of legislation which saw the beginning of massive delays in the criminal justice system, one of which was just referred to by Mr. De Lima, by Vernon, with the gateways, as he was talking about. So what John Jeremy did was he looked at British legislation and imported it virtually wholesale into our jurisdiction without ever trying to understand whether it would work here or not. So what Vernon is saying is, before we had all these gateways, you could ask questions about a person's character and the judge couldn't stop you. All he would do is warn you that if you are going to impugn the character of this witness, if you're going to bring out the bad character of this witness, you risk your client's bad character, if he has a bad character, being put into evidence. And that's you as the lawyer would make an informed whether you would take that risk or not. Now, John Jeremy brought in the British legislation, which said, you can't ask these questions. If you want to ask these questions, there's a whole host of legal arguments with cases from all over, from England, from Australia, from whatever. And you spend days arguing about whether I can ask questions of this witness about his character. And then the judge will tell you, okay, you could ask this, you could ask X, but not Y. And when you ask X, you are limited. And then you have a fresh round of arguments as to whether the judge could limit you. And so on. That's just one. They had preliminary. Sorry. They had preliminary inquiry. When you get charged, prior to that John Jeremy legislation, when you get charged, the witness simply comes to court, goes into the box, he gives his evidence, and so on, and you are committed to stand trial. But the John Jeremy legislation in 2007, which is British legislation imported, no witness wants to give evidence. Now, witnesses all seem to be afraid, they can't be found, they all suddenly leave the jurisdiction, and so on. And it was really to cure one aspect, really, which would be witnesses being murdered before testifying in the magistrate's court. But they brought in all the other aspects that applied in the UK, for good reason, I guess, but it has not worked. And it has not worked because there are no support systems, no support mechanisms to ensure that these things work in a timely manner. So you simply dump this wholesale, and hope that it worked. And what happened
Right.
was it worked, it created much more delay than existed before.
Right.
So,
Well, yes, you were. Let me tell you something. Many years ago, I appeared before Justice Hassan Ali. He was Nur Hassan Ali, who eventually became president of Trinidad. And I appeared before him for bail for some man from Tobago. And the man was in jail for 4 or 5 months, and he was awaiting trial for a simple charge. And if he had been found guilty and charged, you'd only get about a year, maybe 2 years, right? But he's in jail. And you know what he told me? He said, Mr. Lima, I'm not giving this man bail. So I got very upset. But I didn't show it. I smiled instead. I took my books up and I was leaving, and he called me back. He said, yeah, you see, smiling. Why are you smiling for? I said, well, Judge, can I talk bluntly? He said, yeah. I said, well, I show you all the cases from England. They're all in my favor. He said, Mr. Lima, let me tell you something. They say England, it's Trinidad. Right? And different rules apply. I never forgot that all my life. He said, it's Trinidad, right? This is England. He said, that might be good for the Englishman, but this is Trinidad and Tobago. And that stuck with me.
I want to ask a question. So, why haven't we had any, I want to use the words, legal activism, for want of a better phrase, to confront these issues from a position of knowledge and bring it to the fore? What both of you talking about? We've had 4 attorneys general since, and at least 1 minister of justice. I am sure others besides you know that this system that John Jeremy set up has made a mess. Why hasn't that been addressed by anybody?
Well, let me tell you how things change in any country. It changes by revolution. And you see, the thing is, if you are looking for lawyers to change a system, you'll be waiting a very long wait. Most lawyers, with all the gun talk and all the rubber talk, they are sheep. That's the reality. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example about legal activism. When the former Chief Magistrate, Marcia Caesar Ayers, was appointed a judge and left behind a lot of unfinished cases, it is not that nobody knew there were unfinished cases. It's obvious now from all that has been said in the public domain that even the Chief Justice, he knows that she left enough unfinished. What he's saying is he didn't know it was so much. Regardless, if she left one unfinished, one is you have to finish before you take up your appointment. And people were happy to go on if nothing occurred. And you know why there was a change? You know why things blew out? Because one day these prisoners came to court and they say, we ain't taking that so. We spend money on lawyers. We here 10 years before this chief magistrate, and she leave and go on she way and leave we here. And this case had to start over. So more money to pay lawyer and more time I had to spend in jail, me ain't taking that so. And every day when those trucks came with prisoners for the aid court, there was riot. I remember that there was riot, and it was reaching because even the families were outside of the prison vans, and it was a riotous sort of environment. And the police started becoming antsy about the entire thing, and the media picked up on it, and only then action was taken. If those prisoners decided, listen, there's a system, let me just work with it, let me start over, let me make money, let me make our next 10 years to finish my case, then nothing would have changed. If you were waiting on lawyers to do something, nothing would have changed, because I was one who said we should do something. And you know what they said? They said, well, you're the UNC and you're trying to stir up thing against the Chief Justice because he's a PNM. I say, it had nothing to do with that, you know. It had to do with the fact that these men are going to spend another 3-5 years on a PI that this lady took 10 years to do.
Yeah.
That was the issue. But when you raise issues in this country, what they do is they look to discredit you. They tell them, use UN or use
Victimization.
PNM or wherever, we are
Victimization.
taking you on. Right.
One time.
So the whole point is, I remember there was another issue. I wouldn't raise it now because there's a case that's pending off of it. And I told them, I said, listen, this will continue until one day all of the lawyers say, we are coming to court fully clothed with all our regalia, robes and bands and everything, and we will circle the Hall of Justice. Let's circle the Hall of Justice. Not a man must enter the building. We will circle it like Kobos over a dead dog until there's change, until the Prime Minister decides to act to trigger Section 137, until some sort of action is taken. And when I said that, you know what? They say, but we can't do that, we have money to make. Some said, well, there's UNC thing again, and, you're going against the Chief Justice and whatever. But the point is, if you are depending on lawyers to take any sort of test action, you're wasting your time. Most lawyers are about self-interest, and that's it. They don't care about anybody. That's the reality.
But once they did, once upon a time they did, because I remember, I can't remember the name, I think it's Hercules, but I'm not sure. There was a man who was a judicial officer many, many years ago. I think it was in his 70s. And he was dealt with wrongly by the executive. And the whole bar went down. They went down for about 3 days. I remember that. I was there. Right? The bar refused to come out. You must ask about that. But I remember it well. And it was led. It was led by senior counsel, fellas like Prokop and Archibald from San Fernando, and Metro Sedena, and all of them. In those days you had a what you call a real judicial system, and so I mean, look at this thing flows over. You see, once the head is no good, everything fizzles down from there, right?
So the big question is then, this Chief Justice is a lame duck, he need to go?
Well, he's a lame duck. I don't know whether things are working on him. They're not working on him.
But somebody from the judiciary just sent me a release. Vernon. Somebody from the judiciary just sent me a release for immediate release May 26, 2020, historic completion of a judge-alone trial for murder by electronic means. The Criminal Division of the High Court today completed another historic first with a judge-alone trial for the charge of murder conducted primarily through electronic means. The case was conducted in the main through the use of video conferencing facilities, electronic filings, evidence and submissions, with only 2 of the 14 witnesses accommodated in person, although it had been decided that only 1 witness was required to give evidence in person. And it goes on to say, the person was found not guilty. All of the attorneys for both sides were happy with the procedure. I
don't know that. Earlier on when I was speaking to Wayne said that he ain't doing any kind of case like that. But I would tell you no lie. I don't know. Maybe it could work out. I don't know. If it is a question of time too, you have to understand that. If a man has to remain in jail for 14 years to be tried, and a single judge could try him in 5 years, I go in for the single judge. I would try my hand there. Because, I mean, the trial by jury is not an infallibility either. I have had cases. I told this last time, where because of the ignorance of the jury, one man in the jury say, "Yeah, what hear that?" And he say, "As far as I'm concerned, everybody guilty." And I've had that.
That's so funny, though. That's sorry for laughing,
but before I forget, all this part of the judicial system and the corruption of it, as far as I am concerned, I am outside, so I can talk. Wayne Sturge, you should have been senior counsel long ago. Why aren't you senior counsel?
And no, not lie, that's the first thing.
I can answer that for Wayne. No. I can answer that for Wayne. He don't want no senior counsel. He don't want no silk. Wayne don't want
Why?
silk.
But let me, there's people like that you need to
Wayne
owns what?
owns a large cross section of the criminal justice system personally, you know, that he will lose if he become a highly paid silk.
You can't lose nothing. You can't lose nothing. Don't worry that. Let me tell you something. No, the principle of it, man. I mean, you should be senior counsel. Joe Panto should be senior counsel. Ravi Rajkumar should be senior counsel. Jabio Singh should be senior counsel. It's true. These are fellows who excel in the criminal bar. But you see, they ain't got no godfather upstairs there in political parties. But that's what it is. That is where, of course, they cut up the profession.
I find it hard to believe that Jagdio Singh don't have a political godfather. I find that hard to believe, but anyway, continue.
Whatever it is,
Philip, I want to touch on what you just made reference to about, I think it was a release from the judiciary.
Yeah.
And when a judiciary puts out a release like this, boasting about a single case, to say that why last did they put out that a few months ago? Barring COVID, forget about COVID. Every 6 months or something, they have something to celebrate. They have a case to celebrate. There are thousands of cases. So if you do a release about one case, it tells you a story about that system. There's not much positive in it. So when there's one thing, there's no big thing, they make a big, much ado about nothing.
Right.
6 months, come on.
I agree.
What they should do is put out a release stating how many cases they do per year. And I'm not talking about this thing where they encourage people to plead guilty to get time served and go home. There's this new thing where they say, listen, man, come on, we're not sure you're going to get a trial in the next 5-6 years, you know. But if you plead guilty, I'll take into account what you serve and I'll send you home. And every prisoner would say, well, why not? And they put that down in the statistics as a trial completed. So at the end of the judicial year, when they go to the convocation hall and for the opening, they say, look, we did X amount of cases this year. But the truth is, did they do trials? The answer is no. Has the amount of trials increased? The answer is no. The amount of people, the amount of cases being disposed of has increased because there are a lot more people willing to plead guilty and get out of jail on the basis of time served. The problem with that is there are a lot of persons who are not guilty, who, in some cases, I'll go as far as to say that they are innocent, and they take the carrot dangling in front of them because they don't know when they're actually going to get a trial litigated. So they say, no, listen, if I'm going to get out tomorrow, the judge says, if I'm guilty, I'll get out, then I'm guilty, and that is unfortunate.
I want to ask one question. There was a head of the Police Service Commission who went into the jail and came out in tears. I'm trying to remember his name. You know what we're talking about, right? Yes. And I Googled it. Anyway, the point I want to ask, because Wayne alluded to it now, Vernon de Lima, why is this not a human rights atrocity taking place in Trinidad and Tobago in remand yard?
It is. No, it is. I have no doubt about that at all. It is. Let me tell you something. This affects everybody, you know. It primarily it affects the poor men in the remand yard. And I call them poor men. I know them too. I work with them for years inside the remand yard. And I know the prison officers as well and so. But you know, let me tell you a little story. When I was beaten up, I was actually in the throes of doing a trial in the Port of Spade and Sizes. You were doing a trial next door to me. I remember it well. Joe Panto and you and a number of you right? A case with about 8 to 10 people. You know what I'm talking about, right? And I was, yes, and I was doing it. I was beaten up, and when I went back to court and I was doing the case and so on, I had plaster on my head, and 2 lawyers came to me, 2 lawyers, senior lawyers in criminal field, and they said to me, Vernon, you saw who it was. So I said, I saw who it was, yeah, but they calling me and I did parade maybe tomorrow, and they both of them said, don't identify anybody, you know. And I looked at them and I said, how you mean do I identify anybody? He said, no, don't play the ass and do that, you know. Because if you do that, you're tying up yourself for the next 10 years, having to come back to court and go and come back to court and so on and so on. And I said, but what the hell is this? Fortunately, I didn't see anybody. But imagine that. Imagine counsel is telling another counsel, don't identify. Now, that shows you how rotten the system has become. So what about the poor man in the road, right? He might see somebody who murdered his wife or his daughter or something, and the next thing is they tell him, if you identify that man, you could lose your life. Or you remember something, they would tie you up in a superior court or whatever it is for the next 10 years. You see the ramification of the thing. You see how serious it is.
So then, Vernon dilemma, Wayne Sturge, I asked at the beginning, is our justice system in shambles, and why is there nobody in authority? The answer is yes. Why is there nobody in authority in this democracy with responsibility? Trinidad and Tobago is a republic. We're not just a democracy. The definition of republic is a nation ruled by law. How could we be a nation ruled by law if our administration of justice is in shambles?
Well, my dear good fellow, you have the answer. I mean, you heard what Wayne said about 10 minutes ago, that sometimes you walk into a court and one set of people are for one set of judges, the other set of judges are a different type, and what have you. So you don't have any unanimity there, right? You don't have any sort of unification going forward. You know, the whole thing is one person rowing one way and the other person rowing the other way. Isn't that right? What the situation is?
Okay, so one last question. Go Wayne.
Well, to show you how much of a mess it has become, there's a judgment delivered by the Privy Council in 1993, I think, Pratt and Morgan. And that judgment said, in essence, that if a person is convicted, he has to be and sentenced to death. He be visited with a death sentence within 5 years of being convicted. To take longer than 5 years would amount to cruel and unusual treatment. Look at this. That's the Privy Council saying someone who is not presumed innocent, he's already found guilty, and they're saying you have to punish him within 5 years.
Yeah.
What about the person who is presumed innocent and has to wait 15 years for a trial? Shouldn't the emphasis be greater on the person who is presumed innocent, and shouldn't he have his due process in a much shorter time than the person who no longer enjoys the presumption of innocence, the person who is guilty and has to be punished before the expiration of 5 years? That's to show you how back to front this thing is. That's why I always say that in our system of justice, it has become Alice in Wonderland. And I'm sure you remember Alice in Wonderland. The king said, when the subject was brought before the king said, I am finding you guilty. Let's hear the evidence now. And that's what our criminal justice system is.
Judgment now, trial later.
Most of the offenses in our jurisdiction, apart from murder, most of the offenses, the punishment is a deprivation of liberty.
Yes.
And now you are being deprived of your liberty, which is the punishment, in advance of being found guilty. something must be wrong with that. And
Yes.
the problem stems from when you have a judiciary and a legal fraternity that is divided. They have those who are for the Chief Justice and those who are against. And when you ask those who are for the Chief Justice why they are for the Chief Justice, and you dig deep, you find out, well, it's political because they perceive that he is friendly to the government of the day.
Wayne,
And when you
I
ask
don't.
them why they are against the Chief Justice, it's the same thing.
Well, I don't
Because
need a
they say,
question. I want
in
to
their
ask a
mind,
question.
we are against him. Is that really fair?
No,
Can we not
wrong.
remove the politics? Can we not remove the politics from this? I mean, somebody must have responsibility for the administration of the country, and that is a part of the administration of the country, that's the administration of justice. Somebody must be able to say that this is not working and that steps have to be taken to fix this. Whose responsibility is that? The Prime Minister?
Well,
Chief
he had the
Justice.
responsibility when he could have brought some sort of resolution to the impasse with the Chief Justice by triggering 137. If he triggered 137, the Section 137 process doesn't say that the Chief Justice is guilty of anything. What it does, it allows for the allegations that were being made against him to be aired out so that he can meet his accusers head on, cross examine his accusers, and if their credibility is impugned to the extent that they cannot be relied upon, then he is vindicated, and then confidence in the administration of justice with him as the head is restored. So what
Mhm.
by the failure to trigger 137, what the Prime Minister has done is said, I am not going to allow these allegations to be aired out, to be tested to see if they are credible or not credible, so that the cloud of suspicion still remains. And if
Mhm.
there's a cloud of suspicion over the person responsible for the administration of criminal justice and justice generally in the country, if there's a cloud of suspicion over the head, then what do you expect from the subject, the citizen? Would he not be auspicious as to whether he did in fact do justice in whatever case he's doing? Should
Yeah.
he be left to entertain at all that maybe there's more in the mortar than the pestle? And that's
Well,
why
exactly.
you have to remain with the British Privy Council. No matter how you spin it, we are not ready to remove ourselves from the Privy Council because
No, we
we
don't.
have in them a body that would say, listen, we don't business with who Arawi is or Rowley is or none of them. You messed up in Malcolm Jones, they'll say you messed up in Malcolm Jones. You messed up in ANV, they'll say you messed up in ANV. That's the beauty of the Privy Council, that they cannot in any way be influenced by the politics of the country or the money that flows in this country. And that's why,
Well,
sadly, we have not reached a place where we can cut ties with them.
So you're saying that
yeah,
you
well, what is more? What is more, right? It's when you have a lack of trust. That is the thing, you know. It is. Let me give you a quick analogy. It is like that thing that happened with the Venezuelan incident with Trinidad and Tobago, right? You have that one on one side, and you have concomitant with that going on in England. The minister who drives 250 miles against the wishes, against the instructions of the government, and so on. The two of them are very similar because what has happened is that both of them have resulted in a complete lack of trust of the population for the as long as that man continues to be in England, they never try it again. And as long as the fellow in Trinidad continues to be going on like that, there will always be. And then nobody's talking. So there's more suspicion again. You know? So there's a lack of trust. And that's where it comes. Now, and let me tell you, before I finish this point, I heard what you said, and what you said is solid. You know where it comes from? The genesis of this whole thing started with Eric Williams, right? When they had the court-martial appeal When the court-martial appeal took place, I was in it. I was for two of the soldiers. When the soldiers won the appeal, the constitution of the Court of Appeal was the most brilliant that the Caribbean had ever seen, right? It was Mr. Justice Clement Phillip, right? Who was you can't imagine how bright that man was, right? Mr. Justice Aubrey Fraser and Mr. Justice Telford Georges, right? And when they gave their decision and said that they couldn't continue to hold these prisoners, you had to let them go. The first thing Dr. Williams did is he fired the two fellas from outside Trinidad, Georges and Fraser. Get the hell out. And he clamped down that Phillips would never be Chief Justice in Trinidad and Tobago. That's where the bullshit started. That's the genesis of the thing. Did you know that, Philip? That's where it began.
Vernon, this information.
We're still paying for it.
This information is critical to every right-thinking person in Trinidad and Tobago looking at all that is wrong in our country where the administration of justice is concerned. And I want to put to both of you. Both of you have, and Vernon, you have more experience than Wayne, but Wayne is also up to his neck in this thing. If both of you had the opportunity to effect change today, what would be the first thing you'd do?
137.
Fire the Chief Justice.
Section 137. No, I must have to fire him. No. I wouldn't fire him. I would want to give him the opportunity to be vindicated before the 137 tribunal. Because I'm going to be fair to you. Some of the allegations that were made, they are questionable. But there are some that need to be ventilated. And some of the persons making the allegations, Dylan, somebody, I can't remember the name, some of them are questionable characters with questionable histories, so that he may never be convicted if you are relying on the word of this person. And it's right that you allow these things to be ventilated so that the country can once more restore its faith in the criminal justice system and the justice system as a whole.
It is Chief Justice. But I want to ask you, and I am not specifically speaking about these allegations being made about him. I'm not even bringing that up. I'm talking about his competence to operate as a Chief Justice of the justice system. Do you have faith in that?
Well, I don't, but if he clears the one Section 37 hurdle, then firing him is not on the cards. What you'll have to do is take a number of policy decisions. You'll need to change a number of policies that, for instance, traveling. There are a number of judges who say they're not given judicial contact anymore, so that they don't travel and go abroad for courses and so on, because he is the one traveling extensively. He uses the bulk or most of the budget allocated for traveling. You'll have to find a way to change those policies. You'll have to find a way, sadly, to micromanage aspects of the administration of justice, not decide particular cases, but how they manage the case. So generally, there'll need to be a number of changes, not in the civil justice system, because that more or less works. The criminal justice system, you have to start by repealing legislation that has shown to be anachronistic in some respects, and some bits of legislation that simply cannot work. That they cannot work because we don't have the systems in place for these things to work. So there are a number of legislative changes you need to make, but you need to get in and to have discussions with the Chief Justice and to see if you can change certain policies. And if he is against changing policies, you have to change them for him.
Vernon, the same question. Yeah. If you had the ability, if you had the opportunity to fix it, what would be the first thing you do?
I concur with what Wayne has said. I concur with what you said. You see, I always believe, and you can't get away from natural justice and so on. We became lawyers because of that. I mean, the first case that was ever tried was when Adam and Eve stole the apple. Right? When Adam was hiding, God said, Adam, where art thou? Right? You want to hear Adam? You heard Eve. We want to hear Adam, right? So you gotta give everybody a chance to be heard. So and that is it. So I go along with what Wayne has said there. I think that's solid, as solid as can be. But something has to be done for Trinidad to be good.
Before I
Because
ask a question, I know Satish sent me a message, Wayne, and he said that you have another appointment at 9 and you need to leave at 9. So is that still
No,
the
I
case?
can stay. I'll stay
You can
as,
stay?
I'll stay as long as I can.
yeah,
Well, right.
yeah.
But gentlemen, beyond this situation, because everybody looking on at this now, who are not members of the judiciary or the law fraternity, the lay people are still trying to understand how could this have been allowed to deteriorate to this extent and nobody in the country have had responsibility for ensuring that the justice system was functional. How come this is not something that we campaign on? How come we don't hear about this at election time? How come nobody's talking about the things that are wrong and that what needs to be fixed? How come?
With the greatest respect, when I was in politics, I'm not in politics anymore. But when I was in politics, I brought that up on the platform. I brought it up many times, but they don't take you on when you talk this thing, and you talk about the man in the street, right? As the English used to say, the man in the Clapham omnibus, right? Let me tell you something. The man in the street, I care about that, The man in the street cares about one thing, right? How come my case taking so damn long to come up? And every time I go to court, I have to pay the lawyer some more money, right? That is what the man in the street is concerned about. And he is justified in being concerned about that. Because I go back to this case that I did. I never forgot. When the people came to me, man, you come to me and say, Mr. Lima, we have this case. So I look at the case, I say, oh, yes. I read the case, I said, they have 8 witnesses in the case. This case should take 4 days, right? So I cut the cloth and I say, well, it's 4 days the case will take, right? I have a junior with me, so I charge so and so. The case ended up taking 4.5 weeks. I said, but in the meantime, I had to get somebody to put off the other cases I had. And every time I go to cross-examine some witness, the judge said, no. The jury have to go inside a room and you have to tell me why you have to ask this question, right? So after we spent 2 days arguing that, she said, you can ask the question. I said, okay, the next witness come, I ask the same question. She said, same thing. I said, no, man. Okay. As the old people used to say, that's a kuyonade.
Vernon, people are tuned in when you coming on the show just to hear all your little quips and quibbles and all these things that you pull out in the sky. No, but somebody just messaged me to say, if you let it get like this where the public is crying for help and justice, then you can get away with whatever you want and make it seem like you're fixing what you started in the first place. Is that shock doctrine?
Sorry?
Is that shock doctrine?
Maybe we're part.
The person basically said that you could let it fall apart and then take credit for fixing it.
Yeah, well, maybe the person is right. right. You go what you say.
I don't think that's correct. Because the thing is, it's difficult now to charge for a case because as Vernon has said, you'll cut your court a certain way and you'll charge a fee, and then you realize you're 5 years down the road, you're still here waiting, and when the actual trial starts, then you think it's a week and it lasts 6 months. I've had many cases like that where you charge, let's say, 50 or 60,000 for a murder in 2010, and then you start the murder in 2019, and in 2010 you estimated the case would last 2 weeks, and then it ended up lasting 6 months.
Right.
So a lot of the time, there are cases where you get your money up front or you charge up front, and it may seem to be a decent fee. And when the case is completed and you calculate how much work you actually did, you would have been better off than chicken in KFC. You were working for minimum wage. That's the story of a lot of criminal lawyers. Because I'll tell you, I did a capital case in 2009 into 2010. It lasted 9 months, and legally it paid me $10,000 for 9 months' work.
Oh,
that's far less than minimum wage. And the thing is, that's not an isolated case. So for people to think that lawyers make money from delay in the criminal justice system, I don't think so. In fact, most lawyers don't want to do criminal law. In fact, Mario Merritt shared something with me last night on our chat, where he showed me Google criminal defense lawyers, and criminal defense lawyers are at the last rung of the ladder in terms of earnings. So that criminal defense lawyers make the least money.
I'm not surprised.
It's something you have to like. Sorry?
I'm not surprised at all. Corporate law and business law is the money, yeah?
The only, in my day, the thing that was the only advantage we had, we used to get money in cash. We say you get paid in cash. Yeah. You know, but whereas the civil lawyer getting a check. You see, and big companies will give him this check and what have you and so on. But with criminal lawyer, let me tell you something. When I started as a criminal lawyer, my first case, I got paid in. Yes, I did it. The first case I did, and you could check it in the West Indian law reports. It's called. I remember my name just now. But anyhow, mentor, right? It's a case on circumstantial evidence, and he got through with the case. I got 5 pounds of tomatoes. That was my fee when I went to the prison. And here now, when I went to, but in those days, that was 1966, right? When were you born? When?
No, I was born in 72.
Look at that.
I was born in 67. So you were outside there a long time.
Yeah, boy. Yeah. Or I'm going to anything, right? But when I went to the prison and I saw the man, and he tell me, he said, see, my waiting here 3 years for the appeal now. He said, you win the appeal. So I said, I never do a case. He said, don't mind, you will win, right? So I said, well, let me ask you something. How much you going to pay me? I'm asking him this, if I don't know anything about it, right? He said, well, I said, well, I have to charge. I have to charge, and then the law, I have to charge a fee. It's $10, right? He said, no, my sister will give you 10 pounds of tomatoes. Right? She in the market, and she will bring 10 pounds of tomatoes for you. And I said, okay. And she brought 5 pounds. Right? And the fellow got off. He got off. And years later, I'm doing a case in San Fernando in the assizes. And I see the man standing outside the court. I didn't know him. And he called me and said, you remember me? So I said, no. He said, I'm a mentor. I said, well, yeah. I said, man, you have 5 pounds of tomato for me, man.
Tomato.
He said, let me tell you something. Right? The publicity my case gave you is more than the 5 pounds of tomato. Right? But those were the days, boy, I tell you. But so there you are.
We still get paid in watermelon sometimes, and
They bring a cow to my house for me, right? A cow, right? And on top of a truck, right? And my wife said to me, I am not taking any cow. So I said, what do you do? She said, oh, I'm not taking any cow. This is true. Absolutely true. Right? You get paid in provision and meat and all that. Yeah.
You finished your book?
Yeah?
You finished your book?
Yeah, I finished it. I'm waiting for this virus
It
thing
have
to
all,
pass because I want to
it
see.
have all these stories in it.
Yes, yes,
I can't wait to
and
read
more,
that book.
and
I can't
more,
wait
and
to.
more. Very interesting stories, right? Very, very interesting. Let me tell you something. Criminal law is, as far as I'm concerned, to be a lawyer is to be a criminal lawyer. Them defense lawyer, civil lawyers, they make a lot of money and so very boring like hell. To me, it's a boring thing, right? I couldn't imagine sitting down in an office and doing a conveyance, right? Because that's what some of them, that's all they do, conveyance, right? But mind you, they're making plenty money every time they do a conveyance, right? They make like 3 times or 4 times what
But
we
it's
make.
like conveyance lawyer who become attorneys general.
Well, he's still doing conveyancing as an attorney general. He's drafting leases for his father-in-law for
Is
one
that?
entry Alexander.
Hey, as you bring that up, I'm gonna read a question somebody sent for the two of you. As you bring that up,
Yeah.
referring to the matter of the current attorney general during the now is a little lengthier, so right, but he asked 2 questions. Referring to the matter of the current attorney general during the course of a cabinet meeting on February 14, 2019, and his subsequent self-recusal in the deliberation of the matter of the government renting 3 Alexandra Street and the agreement via cabinet minute number 290. We will recall that in that meeting, the Attorney General recused himself from any deliberations of that agreement by stating, "I took no part in rental, I completely recused myself. At all points in time, I made my conflict of interest known. Therefore, I have no conflict of interest and I have breached no law in that factor. On every occasion, I recused myself, left the room, took no part. All cabinet documents will confirm this, so too will cabinet members." In that cabinet room, Mr. Al-Rawi was acting in his capacity of Attorney General, as constitutionally required for the legal composition of a cabinet. As the lawyer for the government, there was no acting Attorney General pronounced as constitutionally required for the absence of an Attorney General when Mr. Al-Rawi stepped out of the room in order to avoid any conflict of interest. Although the conflict was not legally negated by his absence, but remained intact by the fact of the receipt of monies to his company, Zaman Enterprises Limited. Therefore, when the Attorney General left the cabinet room, so far as can be ascertained, there was no Attorney General in actuality or acting in his stead to advise the government on legal matters arising. We had a situation whereby during the normal course of the cabinet meeting, the Attorney General was present in the room, one can assume acting as the lawyer by the government for the government as required, but recused himself and stepped out of the room when the matter of number 3 Alexandra Street was being discussed, and one can assume leaving the government without its lawyer, as no acting Attorney General was announced as required by law, but then became the lawyer for the government again once he stepped back into the cabinet room and then receiving the agreement on behalf of Zaman Enterprises Limited. As there was no Attorney General present to be the legal advisor to the cabinet at the application time, did the absence of the Attorney General create a constitutional issue whereby the cabinet at that applicable time was illegally constituted, and subsequently any agreement made in such an absence illegality can be seen as a null and void agreement, particularly relating to cabinet note number 290? That's his first question. Following on from that rental agreement, Zaman Enterprises Limited took payment from the government for the rental of number 3 Alexandra. As the Attorney General is a shareholder and not a director of that company, does the receipt of those monies, to which the Attorney General and his direct relations would gain a pecuniary advantage by deception, thus tantamount to a criminal offense, create the conflict of interest as opposed to his merely stepping out of the room, as he is both a member of parliament and the Attorney General?
That is not a question. That's a brief. And I will not answer that unless I am paid, right? I'm prepared to answer,
I knew you
but I
would.
have a requisition.
I knew you were going to say that. But those,
You won't get through.
but
That is not a question.
he break that down nice though. You had to admit he break that down. He break it down nice, and those two questions are very good questions. If
There's a brief.
the Attorney General, I just want to ask the first question. If the Attorney General steps out of the room to recuse himself, is the cabinet then illegitimate, not legally constituted, and therefore cannot enter into an agreement with Zaman?
I am subject to correction, but I don't believe that nullifies the situation at all. That's my problem. What is your view, Wayne?
I that ban wouldn't be enough to nullify or to cause any constitutional vacuum. There's a much pertinent, which is whether a violation of Section 5, I think it is, of the Prevention of Corruption Act. I think that's the issue. But there's a constitutional vacuum. Even if there were, is not enough to avoid the contract, in my view.
No,
but I don't know if you remember, Philip. I don't know if you remember that when this occurred, the Prime Minister said, yes, it's true, Al-Rawi left the room. I was there. And then it was shown subsequently that Rowley was out the country, so he could not have been there to say that Al-Rawi left the room. And then the other person corroborating the story was Stuart Young, who said, yes, he left the room, and I reviewed it, and I found that everything was proper. And now we are at the stage where you have the same Prime Minister and Stuart Young in this Delcy Rodriguez scenario where they've been caught lying, to put it mildly. They've been caught lying a number of times about that Delcy Rodriguez issue, 1, and about the fuel impasse issue, 2. So if their credibility is impugned with respect to Delcy and with respect to the fuel gate, can we believe anything they said with respect to Sri Alexandria? And the answer is no.
I told Rohan Sanaran this morning. I told Rohan Sanaran when the media called me, I said to the media, I said, if Rohan Sanaran wants credibility, he needs to be credible. The same thing applies to Scott Young and Faris Al-Rawi and Keith Rowley. You can't be incredible, uncredible. You can't alter truth to your benefit and then want the credibility that comes from absolute truth.
Well, you see that I can go back to your contention. You're right, and as I said earlier on, it's a question of trust. Could the public can't trust again? That's it. It's like somebody, two people going out together, and then one horn the other one. You can't trust. You won't be able to trust again, and that's the way it is. I mean, nothing in this world can change that.
A horn is not a horn unless you take it on. So the Prime Minister and Stuart Young line. That's no big thing. We are accustomed to being in abusive relationships where we are lied to and we are cut. And that is we are always being abused and berated and so on. So that is part of the course.
But going back, trust is important. It's so important that if you once you lose that in a person or in an institution, you give up hope, and that's what has happened.
The Attorney General looked at pictures of his 2 children holding high-powered weapons in Kabuto and didn't recognize his children. His riding partner at the time, Stuart Young, couldn't recognize them either. I mean, come on. But that was early in the game. And in this country, is a 5-year run a government gets. The first 3 years, you don't have to answer to the people. You can do what you want. People have no recourse. Right now, Gary tell you can't burn tires. You can't protest. You can't. The people have no recourse, no voice, no say. It's only the last year, the last 6 months of the last year They want to pretend they're giving you a hearing. I tell people, if COVID-19 had happened in the first 2 years of this government, you think you're getting them daily press conference? They have you to study. There's the rules. Follow the rules.
But you know, I go back to this thing. It reminds me of Sir Hugh Wooding. I keep going back to Sir Hugh Wooding because he was the finest Chief Justice that this country ever had, and he was, you know, he was the first one of independence and that. But he used to say it's not playing the game, it's not playing cricket. And you know, when something is either right or is wrong, they ain't gonna halfway, you know, they ain't gonna halfway right and halfway wrong in life. Something is either right or it is wrong. And if it is wrong, you have to stand up and own it. You have to own it. You know, if you do something wrong, get up and own it. And if you don't own it and you are in authority, then get the hell out.
Okay, they had this question. And to the viewers out there, now Vernon has said he's not taking any briefs, so don't send briefs. But to you all out, if you have a question that you want these two esteemed attorneys to answer, my number is 682-2110. WhatsApp it to me, don't call. You could WhatsApp the question 682-21. Here is the question. What are your views on the fact that the judiciary is hiring people on contract to work in the criminal division answerable to the judiciary and not a service commission in charge of criminal files, exhibits, etc.?
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I think that is wrong. And that is my view on it, but I'm subject to somebody else. But I don't think that is correct. I didn't know that was going on. Is that going on, Wayne? Is that taking place, Wayne?
Wayne Sturge, you hearing me? Wayne, I don't know if Wayne is having trouble. Wayne, Satish, I don't know if Satish, if you could check Wayne. I'm sure Satish working on your audio right now, Wayne. But
I don't agree with that. I don't think that is correct. I think it is very wrong. That's my view.
I'm being told that yes, that is going on at this point. Wayne, are you hearing us now? Anything? Nothing at all on Wayne's end. And that's the problem with this the internet. We're still in the dinosaur age in Trinidad where the internet is concerned, you know. The shows become...
But still, we're doing very well because, let me tell you, Philip, as I told Satish earlier on, it is remarkable that we're able to speak like this. I mean, I am here in Florida, you are in Trinidad, and I mean, you know, it is as though we're next door. And I think that is... Can you imagine how terrible it would have been if we didn't have this and we had this COVID thing taking place and we didn't have this facility, this internet and what have you? Could you imagine how terrible it would have been? You know, we just were very fortunate that it happened at a good time, and, you know, an opportune time.
I guess silver lining.
Yes, a silver lining, yeah. You know, but it is... Yeah, anyway, it is remarkable. That's what I could see.
But Vernon, do you think that if the right people were appointed to the positions, that the problems... Wayne, you hearing us now?
Yes.
The problems will be ameliorated.
Yeah, they can be solved. But if we take a pen, because I want to give Wayne the opportunity to answer that question. Wayne, you heard the question just now?
No.
What is your view on the fact that the judiciary is hiring people on contract to work in the criminal division answerable to the judiciary and not a service commission in charge of criminal files, exhibits, etc., who work directly in the court?
It's not that big of a deal for me because the responsibilities are the same. Unless there's some sort of oath, which I'm not aware of, that would be applicable only to persons in the service commissions and not contract workers. I believe it's the same citizen who has the same sort of proclivities and so on. And I don't think that by itself is a problem. The problem really would be from a labor standpoint, in the sense that we are going to have workers who don't have security of tenure and so on, and who are subject to the whims and fancies of the judiciary, as opposed to those who are subject to a service commission and who
And what
cannot
would that,
be easily removed unless subject to the
besides
normal
security,
processing.
besides security of
Sorry?
tenure, there's nothing, besides security of tenure, there's nothing else the Service Commission provides as a buffer or check and a balance between the employees and the judiciary?
The only
Could they
thing would be the
be,
background checks. The only thing would be the background checks. Um, so that there might be some concern that you might have a contract worker who gets into the judiciary who was not subject to the sort of background checks that that an employee coming through the service commission would have been subjected to, and therefore you might have someone with criminal connections and so on who might be in a position to interfere with documents and so on.
if,
Um,
if you
but
don't
you see, the
carry
thing
out a
is,
if
sorry,
you don't carry if you don't carry out a directive, you can be fired as opposed to a tribunal with a service commission. Does that give
again,
the judiciary too
that's
much
a
power
labor
over the
issue.
employee?
It does, and it is unfortunate that that the
Can
administration
it?
of justice would be engaging in practices where they frown upon other entities engaging in practices like that,
Agreed.
because it's not best practice to be having contracted workers for several reasons. And I think in the criminal justice system, one would hope that the persons being employed are subjected to the sort of scrutiny that a public servant would be before he takes up a permanent job in the public service. Um, and now you'll have people who, you can have you can have people brought in without this sort of scrutiny. You can have this sort of friend business. I want this person to get a job because the godfather is PNM, and we know you and you know we, and all this sort of thing. It might also lead to a watering down of the quality of employee that you're going to get in the judiciary, and there are a number of other issues that would arise from things like that. But the issue you referred to would be in terms of the ease with which they could be dismissed. Yes, that is an issue, because with the service commissions, it's not that easy to be dismissed. You have the buffer. So it is unfortunate. I agree. It is unfortunate that the judiciary is
Concern,
moving to higher workers in that way.
the concern
But
the
they'll
person raised,
argue. Hmm.
the concern they raised was interference, undue influence, interference. If you control my
Well,
job, you direct.
listen. The fact that you get the job in the first place, you might be getting a job that you should not have gotten in the first place. So if you get a job like that, then you are always subject to the person who gave you the job wielding influence over you. It's par for the course. But if you come through the service commissions, it's not a friend thing, it's not nepotism or anything like that. So you are subjected to an objective type of scrutiny, and therefore no one can wield any sort of authority over you, because you have rules in terms of the civil service regulations that protect you. So yes, it is an issue, and as I said before, it really is a labor issue, and it's unfortunate that the judiciary is moving in this direction to hire contract workers as opposed to the other direction. But they'll argue that the service commissions, they simply take too long to hire, and they need people hired right away. That's the excuse they'll proffer.
Okay, I was just going to tell you, 3 ladies messaged me asking for you to get your face properly in the camera so they could see you. Vernon, we were talking about you. You were halfway in the camera. Vernon, we were talking about if competent, capable people were put in positions of authority in this country, are there ways and means and mechanisms to fix and right size all of this and bring it back to functionality in quick time?
Indubitably. without a doubt. Without a doubt. You see, always in Trinidad, that has been a great, big problem. The question of meritocracy. It is always. I mentioned it earlier about the business of senior counsel. I mean, look at Wayne Sturge should have been a senior counsel years ago, not now. Right? You shouldn't have to wait for them. No, it's true. It's true. When I lying to you, Mama Guy, it's true. It's absolutely true. But nobody will tell you, and they won't say anything. Eh? No, it's true.
I thank you for the vote of confidence, but I'm not applying.
And you are not the only one. There are about 5 or 6 of them that I can think of offhand. No doubt by now there must be more. But
you should have been sent about 30 years ago.
Yes, 25. 25.
Sturge reminds me of the guy. There's a guy in Massey Maraval, used to be in Massey Westmont. He bagging groceries about 30 years now, and they tried to put him in the management training program. He don't want that. He said, boss, no manager making the kind of money I'm making, packing bags and putting it in people's car. He don't want the responsibility. I think we're happy.
No, but you see, it was not good for the profession as well, right? Because, let me tell you something. I feel so strongly about this, Philip. I keep talking about it. I write about it. I have a whole chapter in my book about it, because it's so unfair. And over the years, I saw them, the way they appointed people to senior counsel. I remember I have a good friend, Trevor Lee. And when they appointed Trevor, he with tears in his eyes when he accepted the appointment. He said, well, your appointment now? When you know I'm going to retire next month? Right? And I never forgot it. I never forgot it, right? And, and over the years, I saw, I'm not going to call names, because who I'm talking about damn well know that who I'm talking about is true, right? A lot of these fellas got awarded silk because of contacts, right? Otherwise, they would get terrible.
They don't care. There is a type of person in this country that is beyond evil in their nature. They do not care what you think of them. They don't care.
I agree with you on that. It's a terrible thing to say, but I saw it. And that's why I tell you someday, I saw it in politics. I go back to politics and I give you fair warning, my brother, right? In politics, you're going to meet people in politics that are the worst type of human beings you could meet, right? In all my years, I have defended some of the most terrible people in Trinidad and Tobago. That's a fact, right? For all kind of terrible, Malik and Abdul Malik and this one and Dole Chedi and all of them, right? And all these people and Sonny Pululs and so. But that's joke to the politicians. The kind of people that you meet in politics, man, you make them fellas look like angels, man. I'm not lying to you. They're angelic, right? Because in politics, these fellas will come up to you, Wayne, and look at you in your face and tell you, Wayne, and they mislead you down the road, and they have no compunction about it. It's terrible.
You're not lying. I'm telling you. I mean, this is the first time we form a political party, but I've been around politics and politicians for a long time, and I want to tell you something. There are some politicians, you can't trust them further. You could lift them up and throw them further, and you know that they tell you one thing.
I see them. I see them sometimes talking to you, right? I see them,
brother. Listen, you see when people message me, I tell them, message me on 682-2110. They message me your whole client list. You're a lawyer. You have to be able to defend anybody. They're entitled to zealous representation. Plain talk is plain talk. You're entitled to come and have your say. It's plain talk.
All skin teeth and smile. Remember that? All people that in Trinidad, they're true. All skin teeth and smile. You know what?
I think there's a song that says a smile is just a frown turned upside down.
Vernon, I've had to say that I don't like the fact that my skin has gotten as tough as it's gotten. You get so accustomed to the blows that you don't realize that you're just getting hard. You're getting hard. And sometimes you react in a situation and then you realize and you ask yourself, who is this? This is not me. I'm not that hard, but it makes you hard. And I read this saying, I think it's Voltaire said it, he who would slay monsters should see it that along the way he doesn't become a monster.
Yes.
Politics in this country is obscene.
I could never understand it. I wouldn't lie to you. Up to today, I went in, I came out, and it is though I was never in there because I could never understand it. Right? When people say to me, well, don't worry, man, that's all politics. I say, well, no. That lady, she told, just last week, she told me so and so and so. And then she get up on the platform and she telling people something totally different. So, and they say, no, but Vernon, that's politics. Right? I say, well, I don't understand that. I really can't, I can't grasp it.
And for people with ethics or integrity, it is a constant challenge because I'm giving you all the quotes I have. Wayne Dyer said, people who rationalize tell themselves rational lies. I can't do that. A thing is a thing. A thing is a thing. And you have to deal with that. I was in a meeting before this show. And it's a gentleman who wanted to come on board. And he wants to come on board. And he wants to be a part of the party and contest the seat. And he said, if you were in a coalition and the things changed, people's concern is that you will pick up your marbles and leave. And I said, listen, my marbles only in the game based on what we agree on. If the things change, I have a responsibility to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Many years ago, I had a client, and I he was a friend of my family. So he wanted me to represent him, and he wanted to get some concession from the government to do some job or something. So I said to him, well, you must apply to this minister. And I wrote the letter for him and so on and so on. And then off we went to see the minister. And when we were talking to the minister, all of a sudden, I saw the minister, he was, he was like giving sweet eye. Every so often he would blink in the eye, blink, So I couldn't understand what the hell was going on. And my client said to me, he came across and whispered, he said, Mr. you leave the room, please. Right? So I said, sure. So I walked outside. I waited for him. And 5 minutes later, he walked out and he said, let's go. I got the contract. Right? And I looked at this man, I said, well, what? He said, look, no, don't ask any questions and so on. And I said, my God, look. And up to today, I don't know what went on there, right? But all I could tell you, I saw the blinking of the eye. And
he left the room a lot lighter than he entered.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So
now see, we can laugh at these things, but our reality is so sad because we are underdeveloped, kept back, broken, in debt. We've lost about $3 trillion and we've lost 58 good years of development. If you contrast Trinidad and Tobago to Norway and Dubai and Singapore, and you look at what we are, look at what we are. You contrast Trinidad and Tobago to Dominica that was wiped out by a hurricane. Look at Dominica. Look at it. Back on the world map was one of the top 10 best destinations in the world. Trinidad is on the top 10 list of things to avoid. I tell people all the time, our Ministry of Tourism putting people in danger. We have an obligation to let people know this is a country that has a higher kill rate than Aleppo. That should be on our brochures.
Yes, you're very, I hear you all the time when you speak about water, right? You're very right? And let me tell you something. And I many years ago, we were renovating my home, and I used a contractor, very, very nice man called Martin Luby. You ever heard of him? He's now many years dead and gone, but he was one of the best contractors in Trinidad. He was from up the islands. In fact, he was from a place in Beckway, one of those places. And he was renovating the house for me, and I said to him, Mr. Luby, would you do me a favor? we have a lot of trouble with water, getting water to your house, right? And I don't know what to do. He said, leave that to me. I will do something for you. You will never have to worry about water again, right? And I said, all right. He said, don't ask me any question. Don't ask me what it is, nothing at all. Right? Just give me a week and come back here. So I didn't go for about a week or two, a week and a half. And when I went back, you know what he had done? He got a backhoe, which was working on the property nearby. And he got a backhoe to dig a hole in the ground next to my house, right? A hole about 10 foot deep, 15 foot across, right? And he put concrete bricks, he put iron and what have steel and what have you, and he made a tank in the ground, and then covered it up, and then ran the pipe from the roof down into that tank. So every time rain fell, it filled up the tank. So I didn't have to depend on water ever. And he explained to me that that's what they do up the islands in Bequia.
But you know in Trinidad that is illegal. You know in Trinidad that's against the law?
Yes, this is what I heard afterwards. You have to go to Wassa and get permission and what have you. You know, but he did
Wassa
it.
own all the water in this country except flood water.
Yes, I know.
That's
I know
yours.
that.
That's yours.
I know.
You can have that.
It is a shame. I agree with you that people don't have water. I mean, that's a hell of a thing, you know.
But
If you don't,
this Sunday, I went and stand up on the bridge outside Fatima College. And I told Trinidad and Tobago, this bridge is 43 feet by 40 feet by 13 feet. And according to the laws of how much gallons could fit in a cubic foot, I'm standing on space. This piece of roadway, this bridge, could hold 168,000 gallons of water if we just held the water that flowed here during one rainstorm for a minute. When Gary Aboud talks about the fact that this country pays $500 million for desalinated water every year, a nation that gets 100,000 times more water than we need flowing down the Diego Martin River alone into the sea. There is so much crime. I mean, it's hard to tell where incompetence stopped and overt crime started. I have gotten to the point where I think once the decision is made at the level of the government, it was part of a criminal conspiracy already. I heard of contractors saying in a party, I am not joking, I have heard people who had matters before the courts for corruption say, when you're stealing, steal legal fees one time.
I never heard that.
It's true.
I never heard that one, Philip.
I'm looking at you, you're not here. I don't know if you want to come back. Every now and then, as we pulling at Wayne and telling him he had to get back in the politics, Wayne telling me right to pack and go. I mean, so many good people. I know you ain't going nowhere, Wayne, but so many good people.
You think so?
So many good people. Just, it's like they lose the zest for Trinidad. It's like you look at it and you say, I'd like to fix it, but it can't fix. And so many people tell me on a daily basis, brother, I respect you like putting your head against a brick wall because they feel like that's what it is. But I am saying, when I look at the knowledge and the institutional knowledge that the two of you have, and I think if we could just find a way to teleport the two of you and say, listen, fix the justice system, then it could be fixed. Because there are people who could fix it, and we have people who could fix anything. And the problem in Trinidad and Tobago is not the governance, and it is not the managing of the country. That could be done. The problem is the politics. Politics in this country is nasty.
It's in every sphere. I mean, I looked at the show that you did with Atto Bolden, right? It was a very interesting show. Listen to what he said to you. I mean, I can't forget that, right? So it's the same thing like asking. In my case, for instance, I am retired, right? I happen to be on my grandchild here, I have 7 grandchildren and their parents, and they're all here in the States. So they say, well, what are you doing down there? Come and spend the last few days of your life up here. And that is why I've been here. But my heart belongs to Trinidad. I love Trinidad. I mean, my domicile is Trinidad, you know. And if I could help in any way, I would help, and I would do anything to help Trinidad. I don't know when I'll be able to come home, because with this Corin thing, I don't know. I'm certainly not. I'm certainly not coming down there to go into what do you call not hibernation, quarantine, right? Correct. You know what I mean, right? But I want to see good come for Trinidad. I don't want to see anything go wrong with Trinidad. And you ask about talent. We have the most talented people in the world right up here. I was in hospital the other day, right here. And I went there for a minor operation, and I spent overnight, and 2 or 3 of the doctors that passed with Trinidadians. They pass through the ward, right? And they say, hello, how are you? What's on? We're from Trinidad. We've been here for the last 10 years, 15 years, or what have you, right? It isn't that...
I need to give you something somebody now send me. What you know Lord Nelson's song, You Hear Lie? Hear this line.
Yeah.
Foreign Affairs Minister Dennis Moses says, I mean, you had to listen to this about 3 times to understand what he tried to say. But this is some gymnastics. Foreign Affairs Minister Dennis Moses says, given attempts to distort the Rio Treaty by other nations to sanction Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago is not bound by the recent decisions of the treaty.
Recent decisions of what?
Of the treaty.
But he's crazy. He's crazy.
He just put that in America's. They told that for America.
Yeah, that's crazy. They forget that they're dealing with you might like him, but you have a tough, what you call president in the United States. He's a tough fella, right? And you read Reginald Dumas and Martin Daly. I agree with them, right? What they said is correct, right? And I mean, you can't turn left, turn right. When you're wrong, partner. Go down and you try and make up your business, apologize and whatever. But first of all, you have to come and apologize to the country. You can't just go to apologize to the Americans or whatever. You have to apologize to the because your little children and my grandchildren and so get tied up in nothing, and all of us, you know what I'm talking about, right? And you don't want that.
This is called escalating a commitment to a bad decision. That's what he is doing. Because this is a double down on a sucker bet. You cannot play this game with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not the man for this.
No, he's not. You could do it with the other fellow, but you can't do it.
This is madness. This is absolute madness from your foreign affairs ministers. Anyway, I mean, the conversation going nice, but we stray from the point and we stay there extra 40 minutes because it's always enjoyable. I want to thank both of you for taking the time to come, and I mean, the people, they enjoy the show when you talk, when you speak, and you're giving them information, but it's always is nice and it's easy to listen to. So as usual, I mean, now that we've come to the end of the road, I need to thank you both. I want to give Wayne, because I know Wayne has a pressing appointment, I want to give Wayne the opportunity to give his closing comments. Take as long as you need, brother.
I'll say what I said last time. I know you say the problem is the politicians. I think the problem is the people. The people get the politicians they deserve. And the politicians wouldn't do what they do if they knew they couldn't get away with it. If they knew that what they were doing, that there was a really serious political price to pay, they wouldn't do it. But they know that there's no real penalty for lying in the most brazen way, for putting us in harm's way in terms of whether you like America or not. They are our biggest trading partner. I mean, you could all the rubber talk that they said, we Trump could do we. and all that. And I take umbrage to taking orders from Mali Street. When the ambassador summoned them to Mali Street, why didn't they tell them, we do business with you, we're not coming. You had to go and sit
Boss,
down and pay till between your leg,
I know this
right?
is
And
your
you see the
closing comment.
thing.
I know this is your closing comment. I just want to
Yeah.
tell you this. They throw in that
Mhm.
rubber talk for their followers, but if their followers knew that they would lose Netflix and KFC when they get sanctions, I think that they would not be tolerating that nonsense.
Yeah, but you see, that goes back to the point I'm making, that we get the politicians we deserve. And the problem is, the people. There are two sets. There are the followers, and they are less blameworthy because they are easier to influence. The most guilty parties would be the ones who are blessed with an education, but choose to use it to mislead. Let me just tell you something. Whilst I was a senator, there were things I didn't agree with. And if I didn't agree with something, I'm not going to stand up and spin it because this is the party line. What I would do is not support it, not say anything. There's a party line, a whip that says you can't deviate from the line. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have discipline. I'll be disciplined. I wouldn't try to throw salt in my own rice, right? Because the party is taking this line for whatever reason. But what I will not do and did not do is stand up and support something that I was against simply because it was the party's line. And that is the problem with the educated people in this country. You'll have a blonde hippopotamus with a nose ring who would come and use her education to justify all of the bullshit that the Prime Minister and Stuart Young and all of them would say. You would have a women's league to come and support Stuart Young's bullshit, and you will have his constituency come and support his bullshit to say, we stand behind Stuart Young. In a real country, Stuart Young would be needing a job. So my closing comments is this. We are not going to fix anything in the short term. It has to start with integrity, and integrity demands that those who lead on the basis of being better educated than the mass and who are able to influence the mass, that they use their education responsibly. And until that happens, we'll be stuck with the type of voting we have, where the sheep are influenced by those who are better educated and influenced to make the wrong decisions, to make decisions without taking relevant things into account, or to make decisions by taking irrelevant considerations into account. And once we continue along that way, this country simply will not change. We'll be spinning top in mud. That's my closing comments, Philip.
You light up Facebook with that line of point that you make there. Everybody loving, well done, well said, Wayne Sturge. Vernon de Lima, Senior Counsel, over to
Yeah.
you, sir.
Well, I first of all, I'd like to thank you very much for having me this evening on your program. It's always a very enjoyable thing when I come here, and it's also very enjoyable and instructive when I look and listen to your program. I've heard most of them. I heard when you had Ato Bolan and Devish and Prakash and Bo and Nirad and the three ladies, and it was very nice and very instructive and informative. And so I want to thank you for all of that. And remember that we have COVID here with us, and I don't know when I'll be able to come to Trinidad, but I hope it will be soon. And I just hope that everybody will do what is right. Wear your mask, wash your hands, and always do that, and be brave. Be brave. And remember, as I say in the words of Lord Pretender, right, when he says, never, never worry, right? What I say is true. Always remember somebody else suffering more than you, and that is true, right? So,
you dig deep for that one, boy. You dig deep. We went back far for that.
Yeah, I went back far, but he was my friend.
Yeah. Good guy.
My friend, and he wrote good man. I always remember him with that particular song, you know. So I say to you all, peace be with you, my brothers, and peace be to Trinidad and Tobago. God bless.
Thank you, Vernon de Lima. Thank you, Wayne Sturge. Two gentlemen and scholars and giants among men. Thank you very much for joining us. And that's where we leave it tonight, Trinidad and Tobago. There's not much more I care to add. I think that a lot of what we wanted to talk about, we touched on. I think the issue is, I think they're making the point that the responsibility is ours. It could fix, but the responsibility is ours. So we can't get into popcorn politics. You can't sit down and watch the show and throw barbs and make memes and get into the bacchanal and enjoy the old talk. The responsibility for this country rests with each and every one of us. And when we take that seriously, then the right people will be put into the right positions to do the job properly. And that's where our minds are supposed to be now. Can we do this? Have we matured enough? 58 years has passed. Have we matured enough as a people that we can take ownership and responsibility for this country? Have we? Only time and election will tell. Until tomorrow, stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.